Track 25.
And so in today's talk, I'm going to look at the history of inventions and some of the questions about ownership of copyright, or who owns the rights to new ideas and the impact this is having on today's global economy. So, let's start at the beginning with the original purpose of patents. The original purpose was to encourage innovation and growth by encouraging inventors to give details of their inventions in exchange for a limited monopoly on sales of the product. That is, they would get the profits from single ownership of a product for a limited time only, then other companies would be free to manufacture the same item. But individual countries were able to choose whether or not they followed the same rules as other countries. There was a time when countries could go their own way on copyright so that they could introduce legal protection for inventors whenever they thought it appropriate. For most of the 19th century, the United States provided no copyright protection for inventors, arguing that it needed the freedom to copy in order to educate the new nation. Similarly, parts of Europe built their industries by copying the inventions of others, a model which was also followed after the Second World War by both South Korea and Taiwan. Today, however, developing countries do not have the luxury of deciding whether or not to allow people to copy the inventions of others. As part of a trade deal, countries joining the World Trade Organization also signed up to an agreement that set minimum standards for the legal protection of inventions. The agreement puts down rules describing the protection that a country must provide for inventions from other countries. Copyright applies no matter whether the products are imported or locally produced and applies to all products, domestic or foreign. Companies like pharmaceutical firms spend a lot of time and money researching and developing new products and need the money from these products to finance future research and development. This includes also firms that produce computer programs and new plant varieties. However, all of these were not protected in most developing countries. But this new development raised interesting moral and ethical questions which can be put in the form of two questions. Which comes first, public good or private profit? And should Western companies be allowed to patent natural products? Let's look at the first question. Many countries feel that the World Trade Organization agreement gives them a bad deal, and developing countries such as India and Brazil are making their opinions known when it comes to the battle between Western patent protection and matters of public interest such as health and farming. Much of the recent debate has centered on the issue of access to expensive medicines. Many developing nations simply cannot afford the price of patented Western medicines and have started to make their own cheaper versions. Developing countries made a statement at the World Trade Organization meeting asserting the importance of public health over Western companies' copyrights and, of course, profits from these products. But perhaps the biggest conflict between rich and poor countries over copyright comes from the patenting of traditional knowledge such as ancient herbal medicines. In 2003, it was estimated that in Africa, 80% of the people use traditional medicines. However, companies from developed nations have been given patent rights for these medicines. For example, the turmeric patent, turmeric being a yellow-colored powder made from the roots of a herb. In March 1995, a patent was granted in the United States for the use of turmeric in wound healing. However, in India, the wound-healing properties of turmeric powder are well known and have been applied to the scrapes and cuts of generations of children. The traditional medicines sometimes find their way into Western products without the agreement of or compensation to the people who have used them for generations. So now, developing countries are trying to produce databases of traditional knowledge. India is already doing this, so as to protect patent rights to these resources. This, however, costs millions of dollars to countries that could be using the money for other things.